Okay, we are live. Welcome everyone to the Coaching to Flourish podcast. I'm excited to be back. I am your host, Raj Anderson, Executive Life Coach and Coach Assessor. And I am here with John Andrew Williams, who is the founder of Coach Training EDU. Lots of things happening with Coach Training EDU, great workshops and things. What would you share with the people listening?
I've been so deep in the projects. I feel like it's my amazing team has been taking care of the workshops and making it happen. In my world, we've been doing the business masterminds. Those are amazing. So if you're part of the CTED community, the ALC community, please join us. I think there were maybe 15 people last time. Expecting a similar number this week. If you're thinking about becoming a coach, you can attend one of those to see what they're like and see what you get from it too. But they're really designed for people who are students and alumni. So there's that. That's the biggest thing I have going on for me. And I know there's lots of participants in leading workshops and things like that. So in the dashboard, you'll see the upcoming events. That is now working. We got those more up to date than ever. So
lots of incredible events. Please do follow Coach Training EDU on LinkedIn. Have a look at the events on the webpage. And if you're interested in coaching, reach out to Coach Training EDU. Yeah. I think we got a demo, John. Is that what we're going to be doing? Listening to a demo today?
We do have a demo. This one's an old one. I'll be curious because this is one I recorded before we started doing a lot of these Coaching to Flourish demos, looking at the coaching. So we'll see how much it is, see how much of the older, it might not be that big of a difference, but I know when I'm recording new demos, I'm incorporating a lot of what we're talking about into the demos. And I feel like it's making my coaching stronger.
What is it that you want to look out for in this demo as we listen?
I'm not sure. It's been a while and I'm not remembering it completely. I'm sure once we get 20 seconds in, I'll go, oh yeah, okay, I know where this is going. So I have not prepped this. I have not seen it. I have not looked at it. This is brand fresh review time for me on this. I'm kind of curious. One thing I have noticed is the amount of pause I leave between things. That's what I'm going to be looking out for the most on this. But other than that, I'm just going to let it roll.
Got it.
Here we go.
I think the most interesting thing is this move because I've been wanting to move.
Oh, I remember this session.
I think on and off for the last 2 years, but a year ago I felt quite ready for it. I could feel my body just wanting to do it. And I remember in last April or last June, actually, I had COVID for a few days, and when I was, I had to be at home, that's when it hit me even more that I can't do this. I can't stay in the city. Even though I loved Wanchai, I loved having a lot of food options, I loved the convenience, but I knew my body needed to be around nature for healing. So that's been the most interesting thing that's happened and will continue to happen because we're building it from scratch. It's a rental, but it was unfurnished. So we're going and getting things and making it our own space. And I'm also going to South Africa in a few weeks.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot. What would be useful to look at in all these moves?
Sorry?
What would be a useful thing to look at with these moves?
I think for me, my cat passed away a few weeks ago, and she was just a little baby. She was just a year and a half, and it was just a really horrible accident. So even though this move has been exactly what I dreamt of, and I remember last year when I was not here, I'd just keep thinking about this move and, kept getting excited about this move. And then I'd keep pulling myself back into the present moment. And I'm really happy I did that because I was able to be present while she was alive. But I think I still wake up in the morning just feeling anxious or feeling sad because the morning and the night is when I spent my most precious times with her because she would come and cuddle with us. So I think what's missing from this dream come true is her. And I think that's maybe something I could look at, because some moments get very difficult without her.
Mm. Yeah, sorry to hear that.
John, can we just pause here one moment? Because I wanted to point out that great question that you asked. What would be useful to look at? So I just want to encourage coaches that are listening to make a note of that question, because what I hear sometimes in overviews is when a client or coachee has shared a lot, like she did, she shared a lot. I might hear new coaches trying to figure out where to go with it themselves. Whereas you remain curious and you handed it back to her. And actually, she took it somewhere that wasn't within what she'd shared originally. And that was the beauty of handing that back to her. So coaches, take note in the simplicity and curiosity of that question.
Yeah, it's interesting to me too, because I feel like there's something sad. Like, where's the sadness coming from the space? Like, you're talking about these, like, this move, like, where are you at? Like, but it felt sad, and now we know why. Let's see, take it. I remember this session now. I'm pretty happy with this one. Like where we got to. But I mean, anytime you're doing coaching around grief, you're in it. You're in a spot where you have to be very attuned to your client's energy in an empowering way. So that's what this session is about. What kind of what do you want to do with the sadness? Yeah, that's it. You know what I mean? It's empowering. It doesn't minimize the sadness. It doesn't push it away. It doesn't. It still, all of the efficacy of what to do next is still in the client's hands. So aren't you curious where she's going to take it? I am.
I am.
Definitely want to slowly release it and make sure that I'm grieving in a way where it doesn't get stuck in my body. But also, I think she left with really clear messages, or at least messages that I felt from her. One of the messages was that eventually, because before this, I didn't want to at all, but one of the messages was that eventually I want to be your mother. And the second message was that I want to travel more, and as part of my spiritual journey, I want to visit temples, or even if not just temples, but like explore different nature elements of different parts of the world. Because after her passing, we went to Thailand and we went to really, really gorgeous nature landmarks. And they were the ones that not just healed me, but it felt like she was present with me in every moment while I was there. So I think I want to use my sadness and that love that I got from her to implement perhaps the messages that she left.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Where does this put you like a year from now?
So I'm slowly changing to working remotely. Like, I'm an English tutor. So even as a tutor, I'm aiming to switch my work to remote, even though it.
I mean, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I like it. I think I could have gone more like inside the room question though. Like, what's shifting? What do you even as she's talking, you can feel her energy shift around. It's not a bad question. I don't know if it's the best question. I like it though still. It reminds me of like in chess, they have different categories of moves, like a brilliancy, the best move, a book move, a good move, and inaccuracy, and then a blunder. I don't think that this is I think it's just a good move. Is it the best move? I don't think so. But is it an inaccuracy? I think that'd be too harsh.
I like this question, John, because actually, I mean, you said what you want to do with the sadness, but where she took it was how she wants to use it. Like, she's mentioned her body a few times and the message.
That's what I wish I had gone for. Yeah, that's yeah.
So I was kind of a bit curious about that as well. Yeah, I didn't dislike this question because she is talking about lessons from it and the usefulness, and she wants to use it for something. So I could see why this question could land in that way for her. But I am curious about all this spiritual journey in her body and that kind of thing as well.
Yes. And I mean, I think what I was hyper aware of too is I wanted this to showcase like how you can use what's happening in the present and then forward focus it. I think that's probably, and knowing that, okay, this is recorded, we're going to be looking at this, like where are we at? But taking a step back now, I mean, it just feels so like the body, what's shifting even now and energetically. What's going to help you? What's going to help make sure that you like, or how will you know that you've completely, healed? What indication is your body giving you? Even right now, what's your body saying? You know what I mean? There's just so many inside the room questions that I could ask at this point. But I'm not going to be too harsh on myself on this. I still like the question.
Might mean a pretty big pay cut, but I think I'm ready. I mean, I'm not okay with it because I think it undervalues me, but I feel like I'm willing to make that cut or whatever best option they can give me to be able to be remote. And I think a year from now, I want to be able to use that remote working to travel, at least once a month over the weekends, over like for 4 or 5 days every month. And most importantly, spend a lot of time with family. So after I change to remote or after I move it to remote, I won't have any restrictions because I can just work wherever I am. I don't need to take off or, neglect my students. So I think a year from now, I want to be at a place where I've traveled a lot, I've explored in a more spiritual way, not just in a holiday sense, and spend a lot of quality time with my family, specifically my parents and my brother, who live in Pakistan right now. Just to kind of go there, make the most of the time that we have together. Yeah.
And what do you want to do with this session, this time? There you go. It's so simple, isn't it, Raj? I mean, it's just it's so simple yet profound. And it's almost like, I mean, coaching itself is a spiritual practice to stay in a space of I'm empowering the other person. Like I was even thinking it as you were pausing, right? Like, what question would you ask? Right? I don't know. I'm not, I don't know. Right.
But as you say, it's that simple question, and you are trusting in her, aren't you? And trusting in that whole coaching process. And I think this is a really, really good note. Once again, a coach's note, we've all done it where we attempt to overcomplicate the question, or I hear people say, oh, I want to ask the right question. But it's not about right or wrong, is it? It is how the simplest question can just land or open up the individual to share their emotions or where they're at or what they want to do with it. It was just very simple.
Right on. That's right on. There was, I think the thing is, it's about the listening, right? I mean, I overheard an interaction this morning as a parent talking about how she's using open-ended questions, yet her child is still only answering with yes or no, right? And I was thinking that, and the thought hit me. It was like, oh my goodness, it's not about the question. It's about the quality of the listening and really deeply listening to the other person from their perspective. Right now, Nasheya, like I'm very much over there. And I think this is why I'm not trying to solve anything at this moment at all. It's like zero solving, and this is why I think it's working. I just wish I'd gone for this like internal how like we're you know what I mean? I feel like that's a miss, but well, I think I get there anyway. Let's see where this goes.
And John, just to
Remind
point out,
myself of-
sorry, one more thing as well. This whole listening thing, it's so evident how present you are. Once again, new coaches or what, we've all been there, this need or a feeling of how can I validate this person? How can I show them that they are being seen or heard? You're not doing anything. It's very subtle, but it's very obvious that you have empathy and that you're right there with her and that you are listening. And you are demonstrating all of that without going, oh, I'm so sorry, or yes. You haven't done any of that, and you're not attempting to take the pain away, but it's so evident that you are there with her. So I think it's very important to know, anyone that's watching this, this demonstration. It's very subtle, but you are clearly holding space and being empathetic.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Positive. And her love in moments where it gets really difficult. And also, I think ways to separate myself from my husband's emotions, because we're both going in waves. Sometimes I'm okay, sometimes he's okay. And we help each other out. But I feel like when he's really low about it, it starts reminding me of the grief and makes me start feeling low. But I want to be able to separate myself from that. So yeah, I think those two things.
So you're after a way to almost like a mindset or a insight that helps you address the dips, both yourself and your husband. There's a risk on my part. Trying to paraphrase. Paraphrase is uncomfortable to me. I was just listening to a coach paraphrase on one of the training sessions, and it was a new coach, and she did it very well. But I just thought, it's always, I feel it almost viscerally. Like, I have to re-say the words that you just said. I'd rather just stay with the questions. But I think it is an important part of the echo. Is an important part of the time model. The way she said it seems so profound. When I say it, I'm like, you're just after two perspectives. Like, I don't know.
But I know when that's been done to me, in practice, and so I was doing the time model, it just gives me so much clarity because you've said it out loud and then you haven't really caught up with yourself.
Mm-hmm. It is nice. All right, let's keep it. Let's let it roll for a little bit more, couple more minutes, or maybe just 30 seconds.
Even if I'm unable to address his dips, to just separate myself from his dip, because we're not. I've already detached myself from a lot of this and this enmeshed myself from a lot of things. Like we've done that for each other, but when it comes to Jungwoo, when he gets really low, it either makes me feel guilty that I'm not low, or it just leaves me with like a really big, reminder of her passing, and kind of like hits me all over again. I start feeling regret. So I think just to be able to separate that, not just an insight, but perhaps actual means as well, like actual 1 or 2 ways to be able to do that, to keep myself grounded, really.
Perfect. Let's do it. What does your spirit self say is the path forward? Just hold on to that one from, I don't know, last 6 minutes.
I mean,
You know?
it's funny, spirit, because we've been getting one of our friends.
Yeah. Like, we should probably stop here, Raj, and then pick this one up. We'll listen to her answer, and then
Yeah.
But yeah, there it is. 9 minutes later, 9 minutes in, finally.
Yeah. And I just thought that. I was just thinking that in that moment, I was like, she feels so deeply. She's so connected. And it's not just her mentioning the word spirituality. I mean, she is attempting to separate herself from her husband's emotion, not because she doesn't care, is because she feels so deeply, doesn't she? And I was like, oh, I'm really curious about this spiritual self. And then you asked the question.
I mean, listening to her now too, I mean, other options that could take this or coach you, I mean, it's one thing when you're in the coach driving seat, the world looks differently from an assessor seat or an observer seat, because the observer and assessor sees, it's like, oh, you could have done that, you could have done this, but then they're also not under the pressure of listening deeply or asking the question, right? So it's almost like 20/20 hindsight. Like, it was observation is like 20/20 hindsight. What I'm also seeing is that the opportunity here is to shift and to use this, use the current situation as a means of relationship coaching. Like, how do you want to use the challenge that you're in right now as a way to strengthen the relationship with your husband? That's the other big valid path that I think I could have taken as a coach. I kind of want to ask it now, like, I feel like there's a whole session there too. And it's a way that's also empowering and uses the tragedy as a way of, as a way of growth. I mean, which we do as naturally as humans. I think the coaching process would accelerate that.
Yeah. And there's lots of themes around relationships and potentially her value of family showing up, because one of the things she talked about is, with the travel, and she wants to spend more time with her parents and her brother. She talks about, this wasn't just a cat, this was a member of her family. You can see the way she's feeling. She talks about a baby, now she's talking about her husband. So there is a lot around relationships here in the themes, isn't there?
Absolutely. This is amazing. I mean, this is amazing work. I feel like it's so useful for people to be able to have a sounding board like this that is their sounding board. It's not like a coach isn't like, we're literally just a facilitator or a catalyst for insights. It's a sound, it's not like we're giving a lot of direction, naming, diagnosing anything. It's all up to the client. All right, let's see how she answers it, and then we'll finish it out.
He's able to not channel some energies, but he's able to communicate with some energies, and without even asking, sometimes they send a message through him, and I think it's been like 4 or 5 messages from them, and they've been the same. They're just a constant reminder that we're on the right path, and just a reminder that although a tragedy has hit and we're meant to grieve, to not let it become, our identity, and to stay positive and confident in the fact that Jungwoo's okay and we're being taken care of. So I think, yeah, those are the messages from my spirit self, because my spirit self is aware of that as well. In fact, that's been the only thing that's made this whole process easy, has been my spirituality. Like a reminder that we can't stop death, and we can't predict death, and there's no right or wrong timing. But most importantly, I think my spirit self says that she's here with me, and she's always going to be here with me. And, the air that I breathe, or in the water, or in the leaves that I hear rustling, I think that's the main message from my spirit side.
Pause here.
How beautiful. And you can see the shift happening within her, within that question.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like that was the question that needed to be asked. And it's an interesting thing. I know I was holding on to it for 6 minutes. Like I remember, it's funny, like even listening to it, like that yearning I felt in minute mark 3, in real time here to ask the question at minute mark 3, but then feeling like, no, I have to use the time model because I know I'm going to be doing this with Raj. And if I go too far down the rabbit hole, then
When many people say, I better do the time model because I'm going to be reviewing it with Raj. It was beautifully done, though. I mean, just listening to different perspectives and stepping into different worlds, because even if you're not spiritual yourself, whoever's listening now, or it doesn't have to be your value base. It doesn't have to be the way you connect with the world. As long as you remain curious, you can step into your client's world, and ask them questions that help them shift and open up. And I just want to close this out with, I love the way you said this. As coaches, we are a facilitator or a catalyst for insights. I love that. I'm going to take that with me. Welcome to the Coaching to Flourish podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Raj Anderson, executive life coach and coach assessor. And I'm excited to be back here with John Andrew Williams, who is the founder of Coach Training EDU. And I guess better get us focused on this demo that we're going to listen to, John.
All right, let's get to this one.
All right.
Let's
Let's
get
listen.
Here we go. I think we're at the 9-minute mark.
I think it's been like 4 or 5 messages from them. It's funny enough, spirit, because we've been grounded, really.
Perfect. Let's do it. What does your spirit self say is the path forward? There we go.
I mean, it's funny enough, spirit, because we've been getting one of our friends. He's able to not channel some energies, but he's able to communicate with some energies, and without even asking, sometimes they send a message through him, and I think it's been like 4 or 5 messages from them, and they've been the same. They're just a constant reminder that we're on the right path, and just a reminder that although a tragedy has hit and we're meant to grieve, to not let it become, our identity, and to stay positive and confident in the fact that Jungwoo's okay, we're being taken care of. So I think, yeah, those are the messages from my spirit self, because my spirit self is aware of that as well. In fact, that's been the only thing that's made this whole process easy, has been my spirituality. Like a reminder that we can't stop death, and we can't predict death, and there's no right or wrong timing. But most importantly, I think my spirit self says that she's here with me, and she's always going to be here with me. And, the air that I breathe, or in the water, or in the leaves that I hear rustling. I think that's the main message from my spirit side.
What's your spirit self say about separating emotionally from your husband when he's in that space? Is it soft? Can you hear it?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm just going for it. Like I'm going for I mean, this is very similar to future self. Like, what would your future self say? And then you just fill in blank. It's almost like whatever pops in there. I do like this one though. Like going for separating emotionally from her husband when he's feeling in this space too. I mean, this feels like a prickly question to me.
Yeah. And I love this spirit self question. It's almost poetic how she's describing it. It's so meaningful, the way that landed for her, isn't it?
Oh, it just keeps going. Yeah. It's like, and now at this point in time, I feel like I'm just going for as I see it, the most like what I am truly most interested as a human being talking to another human being at this point. I just had spirit self in front of it, and that's what's happening right now from a coaching standpoint.
I think the same reminder that both him and I know that she's here with us and she's present, even if we can't physically see her. So it's okay that like both of us will have those days. I think it's giving me courage and a reminder to separate myself. But my spirit self also says it's okay to cry with him, because that's what grieving is. So even if he's grieving, or even if him feeling a bit lower, ignites that in me again, it's good, because a lot of things, the sadness and the pain need to be released. So I shouldn't feel bad or shouldn't feel discouraged or disheartened when my mood does dip with him, because we can grieve together. Yeah.
What would you ask next, Raj? We played this game last time.
I was right there. You saw me. I was really curious as well about. I'm actually curious about her in her sharing that emotion further. No, like what's the power or the impact and the benefit of that? I'm a bit curious about her whole being and how often she even allows her being to share in that space and emotion with others. I don't know. I was just curious about that.
Yeah, I like that too. I mean, that's more of like an in the room type curiosity, like what's happening here and right now. Always a strong place to go.
And what are you thinking as you're listening again?
Well, I know what happens next, because I did this last week. This would be like round 3 for me. I'm remembering this session very well. This, I'm just going for it. I mean, I'm swinging for the fences at this point. How does what you're learning about yourself now play into decisions of having a child of your own in the future?
I think, yeah, everyone's kind of, or not, but everyone, I mean people who really know us, because other people don't know every journey that we're on. But my parents, or, a lot of our close friends or our spiritual guides, everyone keeps telling us to have a baby, and we kind of keep running away from it till Changu happened. And that's when I was like, okay, I want a baby. And my husband's like, what just happened here? You're the most, against babies. And over the last 8 months, it's been slowly like shifting. And then especially after Changu's death a month ago, it was very like, okay, I know what I want. I think it's because of the teachings, or because of the way that we are breaking the cycle, working on ourselves continuously. We don't really take, not in a chore, not as a chore, but we don't really take breaks from healing or like from improving ourselves, because I guess once you enter this spiritual realm or the spiritual journey, it doesn't really stop there. It just gets deeper and deeper. So even if we're taking time to go even deeper, wherever we've reached kind of has stuck with us. I think those are the things that will help us in decisions about our baby, because it's definitely not going to be conventional about, caring about the money aspect or the academia aspect or, the competitive aspect. It's going to be more about just love. I think love is going to be at the heart of it. And I think breaking the transgenerational trauma cycle, or trying to break that and trying to heal from that and release all of that stuck in our body, in our mind, even if it's not our own biological baby. I think being able to raise them with that knowledge and awareness and with the willingness to break away, that's what's going to definitely determine our decisions, that we're protecting them from this trauma or helping them heal as well with whatever trauma they've been carrying, especially if it's an adopted baby.
Thank Raj.
Oh, it's just so many beautiful things happening here. I do want to make note as well. Before she spoke, like before you asked the next question, and she started to share. When you'd asked that question, she had her eyes closed. Her hand was on her heart. Like, this is so meaningful for her, this whole spiritual self piece. And then you asked the question about the baby, and it's just opening up all of these things around healing. It's just beautiful. I mean, I am curious as well, back to kind of a little bit around Janu, the cat. Like, you know, what was Janu meant to teach you? Because she's talking about like healing and generational trauma. She's gone very deep with this. What are you curious about as you're listening for the third time or listening with me?
I know. I mean, I'm just more interested in your take on it. Like that's where I'm at with it. I mean, just from a larger global standpoint too, I'm curious about the field of coaching in general. Working on the websites and looking at different word copy and working with different devs and people outside the coaching world and then inside. I'm becoming more, and then watching these things too, I'm becoming more aware of, I think, where the place coaching fits in our larger society. And I think it fits somewhere between, I mean, it is a privilege and a luxury to be able to sit down for a half hour, an hour, and have someone listen to you and work through it. I mean, there is that. It's something that we're working to make that more accessible for everybody. This is what we're actively working towards. I think in our society, from a larger standpoint, it's about the act of listening. Like this is a it's like a pre-designed conversation where it's like, okay, you're going to be the talker, I'm going to be the listener. I'm going to be listening from this certain perspective in this certain way, and then you can go like you whatever topic you want to go to. But then there's a dance between myself as a coach asking questions that are very sensitive and extremely personal, but at the same time it's not judgment filled. It's curiosity. When I'm over there listening to her, I'm thinking, what's it like to be, what's it like to be her? She has this, a kitten. It doesn't. A tragedy hits. All the learning. It's relatively fresh. We're a month out. I mean, this is. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. I don't really have anything concrete yet, but I'm really thinking about, okay, how does this fit into our society? Is coaching going to be something that, let's say 50 years from now, becomes the way that people just talk to each other? Like, does everyone know level 2 listening? Or is it one of those things that just like, oh, okay, I'll always be on the side? I don't know. But I think conversations like this, I mean, imagine this is two people in a car ride, going to the, this is just how we communicate as people, maybe.
Absolutely. And I want to acknowledge you, John, as well, in you just meeting her in her world. So I want to call out this demonstration of your ability to just be fluid in meeting her with that diversity. If you think about inclusion coaching, or, this might not be your world. Maybe there are things in here that wouldn't fully resonate in the way you would do things. Maybe they do, I don't know. But you, regardless of that, are stepping in completely into her world, being really curious. And I think this is a great demonstration of that diversity and inclusion type of coaching.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think as long as you're in curiosity, there are layers to this for sure. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot happening. I mean, it feels simple, but I feel like there's a lot happening underneath the surface.
I think you're making it look simple, so I want to acknowledge you for that.
Yeah, I mean, coaching. I think it's almost like what you're not doing is as important as what you are doing too. And I feel like it's probably one of the biggest myths that people come to coaching or coach training. I feel like we as an organization, it's almost like I say it's almost 2/3 stop doing. And here's the 1/3 to do instead. So here. Yeah. Yeah. What's your spirit self say about this decision? There we go. Just pushing it along.
I think my spirit self about the decision of having a baby.
Yeah.
My spirit self has been giving me messages for a while that I have been pushing away or just kind of denying because I've never really felt I've the last 6 years I've felt very like grossed out by the idea of motherhood, probably because I'm still growing up and I'm still in my 20s. Not felt very excited about it. Every time it would come out, I would just a gagging sound would come out. Um, and I think it's because of that concept of not wanting to grow up, but I can't really keep pushing that. And I think holding Jungwoo in my hands and burying her with my own hands and still having to live life and still having to be happy has really accelerated that growing up process. I think my spirit self has been giving me that message, especially I think in August when we were in our spiritual retreat. I think we did this herb called hape, which is I think this Peruvian herb that goes in through your nostril. It's really good for like congestion and opens up your mind, not just physically but emotionally as well. And I remember the first thing that went up, it just shoots up. And I looked at my husband and I was like, I want to have a baby with you. And then, so that was my core self, like my emotion, my spirit self, because I was so connected. And then as time went on and my practicality and my logical, my human self came out who wants to have fun and wants to live her life, it started kind of going away from it. So my spirit self is quite happy that even though my emotions have subsided with regards to heightened emotions about Jungkook, I'm still aware of what my purpose is or what one of my purposes are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right.
How much vulnerability that you have been able to kind of create that space for her to be vulnerable and real. And you're being very courageous in those questions. What's guiding you, John, with those questions?
I'm curious. I mean, part of me, because I know this is being recorded, I know we're going to watch this. I know there's going to be a lot of people who look at this and go, okay, cool. Like, how does this play out? Like, are you even able to coach someone who's talking about doing, herb ceremonies? And, I mean, as from a coach standpoint, I mean, my sense of it, I mean, it definitely deals with the comfort level of the coach. Especially if you're working with, I mean, I work with a lot of teenagers and, back in the day and, they would tell me things and then I'm like, look, if you tell me something, I'm going to have to tell your parents. So just understand that boundary is there and I did, and it was known and it was like, okay. And oftentimes the parents were happy that they at least had someone, someone to talk to about, uh, how they're using substances. And I mean, it was all within, it was all very transparent. What she is doing here, or Nasheya, what she's doing here, I think it's just, she, she's a seeker. She's seeking and she's using tools of seeking. And from a coach perspective, I mean, it's almost like she's just gaining like insight after insight. In no way would I want to stop the process for her on this and say, oh, you know what? This is beyond my coaching comfort level. We're going to stop here. That would be, I don't need to. But I think it's helpful for coaches to look and think, okay, how would I deal with this if something like this comes up? And as more substances do become legal in the US, and that's the trend that's going to continue, how do you as a coach want to handle it and deal with it is an important topic, that is going to come up in the coaching world. I think this is how, like, if they're using it as a tool and it's moving forward, you just keep moving forward.
Yeah. And I think, as you shared, it is this the power of curiosity. Yet, it's judgment free. You are just being curious in this space, and you can see you've created a safe space for it to be able to be honest and vulnerable and real. And as you said, as coaches, I hear all kinds of things from people that are none of my business, really. It's for me to be curious in that space with them and help them to navigate and facilitate their own journey. But thank you for sharing, John. Should we listen out to the end? How we doing?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at the time too, thinking, all right, so shut out. That's what's it like to say that all out loud. And just there it is. There's the thing. That's the way. There it goes.
It's quite beautiful because I've been having those same practical sides seep in again. I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about, being up all night looking after kids. I don't know how I feel about this. And it again feels very alien to me. All the practical elements of it. But this time, instead of letting that wash over me, I've kind of stuck with my core. It's almost like a key and a lock, right? Like once that key has gone in, you can't. It can disappear if you let it. But I've kind of stuck with that feeling, so it's really good to be able to say that out loud because I've just been having this conversation in my head that, oh shit, I'm feeling this again. I don't know when I'll be ready, blah 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 blah. But at least I know that I am ready. It's not if I'm ready or not. So I think knowing that in my being has been really powerful. Even if I know that for my human self, I would like to wait for a bit. Yeah, it's quite powerful to converse that out loud, whatever the conversation in my head has been over the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'm just so curious what I'm going to ask next. Like, I am just you know what I mean? It's a little bit like waiting for a chess move. Like, what's the next move going to be? Like, where we go on this? Anyway, yeah. I mean, so there was finally that finally we get the in the room question. I think I've been holding on to that one for a little bit, just ready to spring it when necessary. We're gonna finish it out.
Yes.
All right. How does this conversation change both the grieving process and the preparation process? Bringing it back, landing it now. We're just bringing it in, nice and smooth.
I don't know if it changes or affects the preparation process because I know that I'm not going to rush into it. And I know, I've always known that I want to wait. I don't know how long, maybe 5 years, maybe 6 years. Since our plan is adoption, there's no biological clock for us either. Yesterday, actually, it's funny because that we're talking about this because yesterday I was thinking about it. Our real estate agent had a adopted babies after she was 53. And she's really healthy and happy with her 2 kids who are now in their 20s. I don't remember how old they are, maybe in their 15 or 16 or some, maybe in their 20s as well. So I think knowing that is a possibility and there's no timeline, it really I think eases things and makes me feel a lot more relaxed and excited about it. So I don't know if it affects my preparation process other than maybe just solidifying it or like solidifying the relief from that. But I think for the grieving process, it's a good reminder to think about Django's passing in this way rather than just get consumed by sometimes, the what ifs. I think they are the worst. Like, what if I didn't call the help? Or what if I didn't do this? What if I woke up on the other side of the bed? What if I didn't go to for breakfast? Like, that gets really difficult because there's literally nothing anyone could have done and can't when it comes to death. So maybe kind of if I'm going in that direction to remind myself of all the things that I said to you, which sometimes it's easy to forget.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you want to call this? Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you want to name or call so you can get it back more quickly?
Hmm.
Yeah, this is pretty strong.
Were you able to help me to come up with something?
I mean, generally just words that you've already used, like spirit, reminder, or spirit self, even.
I think spirit self is a good one.
And a name for it might even evolve. You might that, oh yeah, spirit self, and then the name comes to you as well. Is this something that's usually 2 words, something slightly unique, so that you can always call it back if you need to?
Maybe spirit, maybe Changu's spirit. So it's specific to her as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do we do on our session objective?
Yeah, I think having that name or having that, being able to kind of pull that out the back of my mind and the back of my body is quite useful. But also just speaking about it and voicing out the different things that are racing through my head sometimes. That was quite helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I stopped it here. So how does that type?
Beautiful wrap up as well there, John. And I want us to, I'm just putting this out there even for us to kind of just mark this as a demo that also demonstrates beautifully how you coach somebody through empowering them through grief.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I thought that in real time too. I thought, because sometimes people come to us and they're interested in doing grief coaching or grief counseling, and they feel like, okay, like how, because it can get so heavy, and you're always in the space of, feeling with loss and grief. How do you not take that on as a coach? I think to some degree, as a human, we do. As a coach, I think this is a great example of how not to take that on. How to use it as a opportunity for growth.
Absolutely. Yeah. How to use that grief as for an opportunity for growth. So I know we've got to go, and I've still got so many questions, and I really enjoyed listening to this one with you, John. Super grateful for you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's way better when you're here, Raj. So next week is going to be not so great. I'll be just me, probably. We'll figure something out. I'm just going to roll it out there again. If anyone wants to be reviewed, next week is a golden opportunity. So if you're listening to this and you have a client session and their permission to listen to it, there's always that opportunity.
Absolutely. So grateful for you all. Be courageous. Send us your demos. I'll miss you again next week, but from June, we'll be back in the flow and grooving with all of it as well. And see you all soon.